Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Small Business Development Committee. Call this meeting to order, and the first order of business will be for us to have a devotional. Representative Tolver has graciously accepted to do that. So, Representative Tolver.
Is it me? Oh, I'm a little hard of hearing. Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings of life, and we just pray that you would guide us and lead us, give us wisdom, and that we would make the decisions that are best for the state of Georgia and our residents and of our state. Be with us in all we do. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Representative Tolver. Good morning again, and I apologize for my delay. I was actually stuck in traffic getting into the parking deck. it was wild. All right. Well, first, Betsy, do you want to start off and introduce the president of the Association of Realtors? And
I have a few words if you want me to.
Yeah.
Is this one on? Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. My name is Betsy Bradfield, and I am the Political Affairs Manager for the Georgia Association of Realtors. The Georgia Association of Realtors is the largest trade association in the state, representing over 50,000 realtors from across the state of Georgia. For more than a century, the Georgia Realtors have successfully advocated for the protection of private property rights, in favor of free enterprise, and to increase home ownership in Georgia. Our political advocacy efforts have allowed GAR to serve as the voice of real estate down here at the Capitol on issues critical to the business of our members. As I'm sure you are all aware, the housing market has been quite volatile over the past few years. We have reached a crisis point in terms of supply, with our national association estimating that we are short 5.5 million housing units. Our national association uses a housing shortage tracker, which compares supply and demand based on the number of single-family housing permits issued for every new job in over 175 markets across the country. According to this tracker, the Atlanta area is listed as one of the metros with the highest housing shortage, with one single-family permit issued for every 6 jobs created. That's one single-family housing permit for each 6 jobs that come into the state of Georgia. For comparison, one single-family permit is issued for every 2 jobs in nearby Chattanooga, Jacksonville, and Columbia, South Carolina. In Georgia, the overall median sales price in December was up over 15% to $340,000. That is just not affordable for so many of Georgia's families. We need more housing all across the state that our citizens can actually afford, and we hope we can be part of a solution to help the first-time home buyer saving up to purchase their first home for their growing family, or all the way to that retiree couple who's trying to buy their very last home. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'll be here if you have any questions, but I would like to introduce our guest. First is Lisa Scully. She's the 2023 president of the Georgia Association of Realtors. Lisa hails from Columbus, Georgia, where she is a full-time realtor and a broker at Keller Williams River Cities. We also have with us Kim Eiler Morgan. Kim is a commercial realtor with the Coldwell Banker Access Realty in Savannah, Georgia. She is on the Commercial Alliance of Savannah and serves as on the board of directors for the Savannah Association of Realtors. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Lisa, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
She's fancy on her little cell phone and technology, and I have my notebook paper. So here we go, okay? But I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm very appreciative that you have allowed us the opportunity to come in and speak with you today. I am Lisa Scully, the 2023 president of the Georgia Realtors. I've been licensed for 26 years, and I have offices in the Columbus market and in Harris County. But I just wanted to say how proud that I am serving this year as the president, and all 4 of our conferences that we are holding this year will be right here in the state of Georgia. So that makes me happy. We have 2 in Atlanta, 1 in Savannah, and 1 in Columbus. But first, I must say how great it is to live in a state where our governor and leaders recognize that we need to focus on workforce housing. Governor Kemp has made it known that he wants to find workers a place to live for the tens of thousands of jobs that will be created right here in the state of Georgia for at least the next 5 years. Governor Kemp sees the need for places to live and not be restricted. People need to live in the communities where they work. Today, we can all agree we are in a housing crisis and shortage. We must find ways to keep the housing market healthy. By doing this, we will have thriving communities, retail and commercial. Having worked in the 2008 market, it opened my eyes to the many jobs that are successful and healthy when we have a housing market that is affordable and working properly. I've worked with an amazing young couple for a year now, and we're finally under contract. We're set to close, and the market last year was too competitive for them. We made many offers. They could not get a house. The non-appraisal contingencies, where folks were doing that, paying overprice, and also no closing costs paid by the sellers for these young couples. I had a teacher, and he's a firefighter. So with that being said, they could not accomplish anything, and he had to be within 20 miles of radius of his job. We could not find them, we could not compete with the bids, and we could not compete with any of it. We did win one just this year because they moved in with her parents. They had to save money to compete in this market. They needed to be able to compete so that they could make their offer and not ask for closing cost assistance. So that is how we won it, because there again, we were in multiple offers. So because of them and moving in with the parents, they were able to save. It has been a true struggle, and today they were still not afforded that same opportunity that they could have been afforded last year, because the housing was $50,000 less that they qualified for just because of interest rates. So there is a true struggle there for them. And then another real estate struggle that I'm faced with right now is a Cardus referral. This family has to live, and it's mandatory that they live within 60 miles of their job. We have made 5 offers on homes, nothing within the 60-mile radius of their jobs, just because of low inventory. So they had to make an offer it's an 80 miles away. So with that, on the Cardus program, they are not getting any assistance in closing costs from their referral location company because they were not able to find a home within the 60-mile radius. There again, because of lack of inventory and competitive bids. And then yesterday, while serving on our board of tax assessors with a local lender, we were discouraged and discussing the drop in building permits. This will continue with the shortage, and we will not be prepared for our spring market. As you all know, as soon as that first daffodil pops out, so do those buyers. So markets will be slow again for spring because of building permits and home shortages. Where will we find these homes? We are definitely in a housing market shortage for our first time or our last time home buyers. As I am in the Harris County market with a population of 35,626, we only have 44 homes on the market. 11 of those homes are under $200,000, but 5 of them are in a little resort area with HOA fees of $4,400 a year. This affects qualification for loans. 4 of the homes on the market are $200,000 to $300,000. 7 are $300,000 to $400,000, 14 are $400,000 to $500,000, and 7 are $500,000 to $1.5 million. Columbus has only 240 homes on the market, and that is a military town with a population of 205,000 plus. And as I've had the opportunity to visit our local boards throughout the state this year, inventory, pricing, and restrictions is top of mind and top of conversation. I have heard of areas with 2-acre minimums on paved roads, 5-acre minimum on unpaved roads, 4-sided brick, and many other concerns. We need all housing for everyone: affordability, less restrictions, and workforce housing. I love where I live and I work, and I'm always proud to say I am a Georgia Realtor. As a realtor, there are relationships built because it is a process. When I say a process, the house shopping may take weeks, may take months, and as I told you earlier, may take years. So you go shopping, you get the pre-approval from your lender, you find the house, you write the offer, you get the offer accepted, it's negotiations, you set up inspections, which could be home inspections, radon inspections, termite inspections, many more. You have the appraisal, you have the amendment for repairs. You do your walkthroughs, you work with, you have conversations with loan officers, attorneys, appraisers, you gather payoff information, you help your sellers and buyers there, you work with them on changing all the utilities, and then the closing may be a 30 to 45-day process. You then make it to the closing table. We as realtors must have a passion for our industry, our communities, our clients, and our customers. We provide lifestyle. We provide security, peace of mind, homes, and confidence. I want y'all to think about these as I say each one. There's no place like home. Home, sweet home. Love begins at home. Home is where we should feel secure and comfortable. Home is the most popular and will be the most enduring of all earthly establishments. Home is where love resides. Memories are created, friends and family belong, and laughter never ends. The Georgia Realtors thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for listening to us today, and we thank you for your concern and the help that you can provide to give the communities a place they can call home. Part of the Georgia Realtors mission statement is enhancing the life in our communities, and together we can make that happen with workforce housing opportunity. And I thank you.
Representative Lott, we're going to hold our questions till the end if that's okay, because we've got a full agenda. And now talking about commercial real estate, Ms. Kimberly Earl?
Eiler.
Okay.
Eiler Morgan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for the opportunity to speak to you today regarding commercial real estate. I've been in the business for 16 years. I've seen the ups and downs, and I see what we're experiencing in the southeastern portion of the state with the industrial growth and the expansion of the ports and all that's happening with Hyundai. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit today, based on our conversation, in how the process of commercial transactions work and the time involved in that. So it's important that once you have a buyer or a seller, and I'm going to speak to the sellers initially here, and then we'll talk a little bit about the buyer. But recently, I was able to help a family that's land was agricultural. They had been made multiple offers that were significantly pennies on the dollar based on what the land was really worth, if it had some things taken care of. So we went to task and was able to partner with engineering firms, wetland specialists. We were able to get geotech. We went to planning and zoning to rezone this property. Again, it was agricultural, and we were able to have it rezoned to industrial. In light of putting that together, it took about 18 months in order to get this done. We knew that it was a very viable piece of property. It was located within 6 miles of the port, almost unheard of right now. And we put together a package and disseminated out to interested parties. We had 37 interested parties, and so we decided we would do what was called a call for offers. It wasn't anything that the sellers did not have to have a call for offers, but because of the interest in the property, we had 17 parties that responded to our call for offers. On the date that those offers were due in to my office, we had a change in the wetlands delineation through the current administration, which revamped the entire process that we had just spent 18 months working on. We now no longer had 64 acres of viable land to develop. We had 42, which changed the dynamics of the pricing of the property, changed the dynamics of the wetlands delineations that we had done, the ALTA surveys, etc. So we actually had to back up and punt with the process. The original award of the bid, that company was no longer able to function. The price to come out of the dirt before you went vertical, just moving dirt, went from $6 million to $12 million on top of the sales price, just overnight. This incurred us going back to additional bidders. We did have a bidder come forward that we were able to make the deal work, but we were significantly less in sales price. Wetlands mitigations went from, at the time, they were about $300,000 an acre to mitigate to $510,000 plus now. So what we're seeing is this is a continuum. We're having this issue in terms of being able to develop certain properties, especially in the industrial sector. This does impede our ability. We are working on some things. We hope to have some relief in June from the Supreme Court regarding some of the wetlands and some clear definitions, because there's still not a lot of clear definition out there for us. I'd like to talk a little bit on the multifamily sector. As Lisa said, we do have a housing shortage. Multifamily is much warranted. We do have areas that we are working on, especially in our area with, again, the Hyundai plant coming online and the 8,000 jobs. Bullitt County has already announced about 1,400 jobs that they are working on. So the housing crisis is an issue. What we are experiencing from land development in terms of being able to have single-family homes as well as multifamily homes come online is the infrastructure. Obviously, residential requires more infrastructure than a warehouse. The water and sewer lack of in many municipalities, impact fees that municipalities are now implementing. Many have had to put in moratoriums so that they can get a hold on what they actually have within their city and review their comprehensive plan. So these are items that we are faced with daily. We are still growing at a tremendous rate. We do see that there's a possibility there we will see some slowdowns based on the fact that we can't get subdivisions online and multifamily online in a timely manner for what we need. And that's my presentation today, and I thank you all for your time.
All right. Well, good. Very good. All right, we're going to open the floor for questions for about 5 minutes. Representative Lott, you've been very patient. Thank you.
I have 3 questions, so it may affect both of you. I'm not sure, but certainly the first speaker. First of all, and this is, so you came, so I would like to say my realtors in my community are some of my favorite folks and certainly some of my best friends. You just get these questions even though they might be slightly controversial, okay, but you get them because you're here. So realtor rates, and this is from my own knowledge, are they set or are they flexible in Georgia? Because I don't know the answer to that.
Do you mean
Your percentages? So I know that like if I'm going to sell my home, I'm adding in what the realtor tells me I'm going to pay out, and I'm increasing the price of my home by that amount so that the realtor gets their amount. Are those set amounts for all realtors in Georgia, or are they flexible?
No, they are not set. Generally, they are 6% total rate.
They are not set rates. Commissions are negotiable, and commissions is not something that we can say is a set rate. That is a complete RESPA violation, and so no, commissions are negotiable.
So during a time by which like we are in now, the realtor rates, and I'll be honest, I live in a fairly affluent community, and so the realtors are walking away with $100,000. I mean, there's some big money to happen. And literally a home is sitting on the market for a day. So it's $100,000. Thank you for today. So you're saying that they have the flexibility to drop those rates, and we can have a little bit of room for movement on that.
When the home is listed, not usually so much during the negotiations
Sure.
up front, but up front, the commissions is definitely something that the seller can discuss with the agent.
Okay. That was one of my questions. And Mr. Chairman, is it okay if I ask my 3 questions? Or would you like me to wait?
I'd like for you to wait, and then
Okay.
you can talk with them individually, because we've got 3 more questions I'd like to hit in the next 5 minutes. So, number 21.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. My name is Mitchell Horner, District 3. My question is for all of y'all in conjuncture. This issue personally affects me. I'm a millennial. I'm 28. I'm time home, or would like to be a first-time home buyer. I'm a renter. I'm probably one of the few in this chamber that is a renter. And that being said, is I can't find a home. I have, if you look at the mortgage rates and your monthly payment for a mortgage, it'd be around $2,500. I make pretty good money, but not good enough to spend 40% of my income on $2,500 of mortgage, on top of other fees that come with buying a first-time house. So I understand the housing problem. That being said, it is my also fundamental belief that government shouldn't be in the creation of housing units. So that being said, is how can the government, and specifically the state government, best help you guys cut the red tape for better permits, and or it's actually a two-part question, I'm sorry, Chairman. Is this also an issue of out-of-state buyers coming in and basically taking away from from Georgians being able to buy their home? Is it out-of-state corporations? Is it Airbnbs? What is the real, I guess, where is the big problems at to where we can address it from our side?
Right. So our number one issue that sort of speaks to all of what you're seeing is the fact that we just do not have enough supply. It is our belief that these investors that are coming in from out of state will leave once the supply has returned to normal, right? They will move on to the next hot market, whatever it is. But we do believe that we need to increase our supply. So that's single family, that's rental, that's multifamily, residential, condos, townhomes, all of it. There is just not enough housing across the state, as I'm sure you experience. I went through the same thing trying to buy a condo last year. The process is really hard, and it's really, really hard for first-time home buyers because, like you mentioned, it's not just the cost of the mortgage, it's the closing costs and all the, assessments that you have to go through and all the people looking at the house for things that are structural and stuff like that. So we do believe that the out-of-state investors, it's a concern because you have people who are moving in from California, or not even just investors, but just families who are moving in from California who want to live in Georgia because we were one of the first states back open after COVID, thanks to the governor. And they saved up, $500,000 to put on a down payment because their minimum home price over there is like a couple million. So they have $500,000 to now spend on a house over here, and they can pay all cash. So it is definitely a competition thing, but that's something that we think that will be alleviated by increasing supply. So there's definitely things that we believe the state government can help with, and we would love to discuss those with you offline.
Thank you. Good. Okay. This is obviously going to be an interesting conversation, but we're not going to be able to continue. Chairman Washburn, you've got the last question for this segment. Chairman, you've got the last question for this segment, and we'll continue later. You're down on the list. Did you have a question? No, I thought you wanted me to sort of capture what they had said. That'll be perfectly all right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry I was a little confused there. I was on the agenda, I thought, to sort of finish up for the Realtors. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be a member of the committee, of course, and honored to be here with you today. I have been in the real estate business all my life. I grew up, my grandfather and my father were in the home building business. And I grew up digging ditches and driving nails, and I'm proud of that. We always focused on the entry-level buyer. I still have one of my grandfather's business cards, and it says, construction of practical and moderately priced homes. And I'm proud of that. And as we moved into adulthood, we joined my daddy in business. My grandfather was gone. We joined my daddy in business. My brothers and I did. And we continued to focus on the entry-level home buyer, on the first-time home buyer. I was a Jones County commissioner. I worked very hard in Jones County as a commissioner to upgrade the planning and zoning, to strengthen that, to help control orderly growth in the county. So I by no means believe we don't need order, and we don't need local government to have some input into how growth goes. One of the problems is, and this has been addressed today, and we might as well face it like it is, we now have local governments overreaching on planning and zoning, and they're telling you that you have to build a minimum square footage size in some counties. They're telling you what you have to build it out of in some counties. They're telling you it has to be all brick in some counties. Ladies and gentlemen, when you start imposing those kind of regulations, you run the cost up. When I was in Jones County as a county commissioner, we did work hard on planning and zoning. The Georgia Constitution gives local government the right to do planning and zoning. Planning and zoning is about land use. It is about single family goes here, multifamily goes there, industrial goes there. It is not about imposing overreach on private individuals who own property and want to build a home that they can raise a family in. Home ownership is important. The housing ladder that we talk about in the Georgia Association of Realtors means we help that first-time home buyer buy that first home. That puts them on the housing ladder, where through the combination of appreciation and paying down a mortgage, they can build equity. And ladies and gentlemen, for Georgians, the path to financial stability, the path to building any kind of wealth that is generational wealth, has to do, generally speaking, most always with the ownership of that first home. And unfortunately, I'm sure it is well intentioned by our local governments, but we're allowing city councils and county commissions and zoning boards to impose their personal taste on all the property owners in those counties. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be dropping legislation that is going to try to bring some of that under control. I look forward to you seeing that. We have a strong coalition of the Georgia Association of Realtors, the Home Builders Association, and the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. And we are recruiting some other folks to be part of our coalition as well. And we will be dropping that legislation. Home ownership is very important to the health of our state. We are growing because we are a great state that has a lot to offer. And we are growing, and people need and deserve to be able to buy a home. And it's not only about that. It is not only about dollars and cents. Home ownership is part of God's plan for a healthy society, because that's where our families can raise their children and sit around the dinner table at night with them. It is important to the future of our state. And it is also important because when we talk about home ownership, as I used to always say when I'd be speaking on behalf of the Georgia Realtors, rooftops creates more commercial development, and that creates sales tax. And all of this, of course, broadens our tax base. It creates the local tax dollars that fund our local government. Our local governments do great work, and we are not suggesting that every local government in Georgia is doing some of these things that are hurting the housing situation. About 60 of our counties don't even have planning and zoning. Ladies and gentlemen, the free market will work if you get out of the way and let it work. And it is wrong to impose on our private property owners a requirement that they build a bigger house than they need, because that keeps them from building a house at all. And so this is a healthy debate. People of goodwill can disagree, but I will continue to be a strong voice that it is time for us to let the free market work and let our Georgia people buy and own a home. It is good for our state, and it is good for their families. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to y'all this morning.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. That was great. Now for the, I think, Shane, I think you're going to be up now for the commercial real estate bankers. And I asked you to talk about, how to buy a house, how to buy property. So talk to us about this. I mean, we heard earlier from the realtors, the entire process, from the financial aspect. Explain that to us, please.
I'm not sure I really want to follow that, to be honest with you. Very well done, Representative Washburn. I agree with what you're saying wholeheartedly. A home is your greatest asset, and we certainly have a housing shortage here in Georgia. And I guess we could say that's a good thing. We have a lot of, it's not a good thing long term, but it's a good thing right now because it shows the growth we have in this state. And with all the factories and everyone coming into Georgia, we need to keep up. So I'm Shane Wally with the River City Bank, in Rome, Georgia. We have been open since 2006, and I'm proud to say that we just opened a bank in Blairsville, Georgia last year, and we now have a bank in Dawsonville, or we have an LPO in Dawsonville, which we hope to turn into a full-service bank in the near future. I can speak to a lot of things about banking, and you probably have questions, which is fine. But as far as how to obtain a home, how to obtain a commercial building, it's two very different things. I focus more on the commercial side of things, but I also do an in-house ARM loan for mortgages, which is very beneficial to people who cannot qualify on the secondary market. The rules are a little bit different to qualify on the secondary market. You know, if you're self-employed or you just started a job, it's harder to qualify on the secondary market. So that's where I can help with doing a loan in-house. It is an adjustable rate loan, but that rate is fixed for 5 years. So that affords people the time they need to get qualified on the secondary market. As far as commercial loans go, every one of them is different. You heard Kimberly talk some about some of the language we use, ALTA surveys and things of that nature. There's a lot to commercial lending. Every deal is different. But, you know, basically, right now, the state of the market it's still strong. Interest rates are high. Prime right now is 7.75 and could easily go up to 8% in March. And but we're still seeing loan growth. We're still seeing people call us and look at buying buildings or refinancing. A lot of people are tied to SBA loans, and those SBA loans have a variable rate. And I've talked to some people recently that have loans close to 10%. So we can work with those people and try to put them into a fixed rate product to alleviate some of that concern. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into about lending. I know we're short on time, but I'll be happy to answer questions that any of you have about any specifics of commercial lending, and I'll do what I can on the mortgage side as well.
That's good. Okay, we will open the floor up for a couple of questions. Number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for each and every one of you presenting to us. I actually wanted to ask the realtors,
Sure.
What suggestions or recommendations do you have in helping this situation? And I know we've worked and talked closely together during the study committee. And also, I just want to say to Chairman Washburn that we worked closely together also. And I know there's going to be legislation, but I want to hear what you think will resolve this situation.
So I'm happy to get with you offline so we can sort of go over that legislation. But there's going to be several things in there that we think will help reduce building cost and will allow us to get that supply on the market as soon as possible. And then there's some other legislation that's being dropped on the Senate side that we're going to take a look at. Just overall reducing the cost for building a home, we'll be able to clear that threshold to allow that first-time home buyer to actually be able to afford a starter home, right? That 2-2 or 3-2 home that they really want. If we can build on smaller lots, you can save cost on infrastructure and running sewer and water. Things like reducing design mandates, so allowing people to build what they want to build with, which is perfectly safe and allowed under DCA's building codes. So there's things like that that we think that we can take a crack at statewide to help the locals help build this housing market, especially with the governor's money that he put in the budget. I think it's high time that we look at building this workforce housing.
And Mr. Chair, follow up if you don't mind. One of my major concerns is what we talked about earlier with investors from out of state coming in and taking, taking those houses off the market, and they have become a monopoly. And they are the ones that are dictating right now what the cost of homes and rent is. And so my question is, I know you said that we won't see them after we have a supply. So how long do you think it's going to take for that supply to be visible?
Right.
And obtainable.
I wish I knew. I wish I had like an easy answer for you, but I don't. I think the quicker that we're able to get these units on the market by reducing cost, I think that'll help the problem. Also would love to work with you. I think what our main concern is as the realtors is that we want to protect those mom and pop landlords who own maybe like 2 or 3 homes, and that is their investment property that they've had for years, and it's, you know, grandma and grandpa's only source of income, right? They've had those houses, they've got a property manager that rents them out. We have not seen anything that goes after the corporate landlords, the big, the BlackRocks and that you're looking at, without accidentally ensnaring those mom and pop landlords and property managers of smaller properties who are doing everything right? They're not people who you're seeing in the AJC. If we can find something that protects those people and helps people build this generational wealth through property ownership, that, you know, still allows a Georgia family to buy a home by not competing with these huge investment companies, I would love to work with you on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
Representative.
Cool. Okay, we've got time for one more question. Representative Barnes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for everyone that has spoken this morning. My district encompasses a lot of refugees in one portion, so I represent Clarkston, a portion of Clarkston, and then I represent a lot of seniors in my Decatur portion of my district. So my question is, what programs do we have for refugees to be first-time home buyers? Are there any programs? They do ask. The apartments are pretty full there, and they're living several to a home, and so they're becoming overloaded. And so next they would like to purchase a home, but they would also like to stay within the vicinity of Clarkston because it's a very diverse city. So what programs do you have for refugees, and what programs do you have for seniors to keep their homes? Thank you.
So do you know what about Georgia Dream?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. So Georgia Dream is a program that is run by the Department of Community Affairs that provides closing costs up to, I think they just raised it, actually. Can anyone confirm? 10,000? Up to 10,000 in closing cost for, they've got a couple of core categories. And those categories are first-time home buyers who are making under a certain threshold. I believe it's around $80,000. And the home price in the metro area, I believe, is $325,000. So they can't purchase a home that's higher than $325,000. Okay. And I would like to point out that they actually had to raise that. For many years, it was $275,000, and they had so many Georgia Dream applicants that literally couldn't find a home for $275,000 that they had to raise it to $325,000. And then it's got mentions in there about if you live with a disabled adult or you are disabled, you're also eligible with that $10,000. Okay. If you're a teacher, firefighter, first responder, nurse, doctor, you're also eligible. I do not know if it has a portion in there for seniors, but do you know if you have a senior homestead exemption in DeKalb County?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. So I would definitely see you could work on that at a local level. And then I know that some local governments are doing property tax freezes for certain communities, right? So like a lot of senior citizens. I'm not exactly 100% sure how that works, but it is something you could definitely explore through local legislation in DeKalb. That I know they're doing a lot of that to prevent, you know, gentrification and keeping those legacy residents in their homes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. If y'all would, let's hold back on the questions for 1 second. We want to hear from Mr. Bussey about the Mortgage Bankers Association. Thank you for being here today. We're trying to stay on track, but sometimes the questions drive us in different directions. So once we finish, and we'll open the floor to all the questions, and please write them down and save them because I'd like to address all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. Mr. Chairman, I will do my best to keep us back on track. I am here today representing the Mortgage Bankers Association of Georgia. Mr. Thrash, thank you for having me. Obviously, the mortgage industry has gone through a tremendous amount of change in the past 3 years. We saw record interest rates that dropped considerably in 2020. And I think the thing that was pretty interesting is none of us realized what the market was going to look like after that drop. We saw interest rates as low as 2% in many instances, but you fast forward today, it has become very easy to get a mortgage. You can do it on your phone. You can meet with your representative. There are a number of things that you can do to get a mortgage. I think the thing that's most important to me is with Ms. Scully and the representative mentioned in regards to homeownership, future wealth, not being able to buy a property now because on the mortgage side, excuse me, it's become very difficult for us to qualify people. If you look at a homeowner who wanted to buy a house, and I couldn't help from smiling when Ms. Scully was speaking, in January of last year, and they couldn't find a property, interest rates were probably 4% at that point. Now they're upwards of 6%, 7%, and that customer cannot afford to pay the extra $400 or $500 for a mortgage. So we've become almost counselors for customers who are looking to buy properties because they cannot qualify, nor do they want to pay that much more because there are budget constraints. Between that and not being able to find a property has always been a very difficult thing for us over the past year. So the industry has gone through quite a bit, obviously. The one thing that I am concerned about personally is something called LLPAs. And you should make a note of that. And what is that? So over the years, the agencies, Fannie and Freddie, have had loan level pricing adjustments on loans. So what does that mean? So that means if you're a customer and you have, say, for example, a below 680 credit score, okay? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will give a pricing adjustment for risk because they feel because of your credit profile that you are a higher risk, and they may make an adjustment to your price. So for example, if the interest rate today is, say, 6%, and that is with 0 origination points, if the credit score is lower than 680, there might be an adjustment of 1 to 2% that you would have to pay in closing costs. And on a $300,000 home, that could be either $3,000 or $6,000, okay? Very customary because of risk. What's happening now, and should be happening probably in the next month or two, is that these LLPAs are going to affect everyone, not just individuals who have a below 680 or 640 or 620 credit score. You could have an 830 credit score, and you will still have a pricing adjustment. So what does that mean? It means that even if you're an individual who has maintained a very strong credit profile, if you go to buy a house, you will still see that adjustment, which in our minds, I don't think is fair, quite frankly. If you have spent years building a solid credit profile and you go to buy a house, in many cases, you should be rewarded for your good credit. That's not going to be the case anymore. Everyone is going to be affected. Those individuals who are buying second homes and investment properties are really going to see a difference. So that is legislation that is on the table right now. We as an association with mortgage bankers are taking a stance to take a strong look at that, and also the MBA at the state level, at the federal level is also looking at it. But that is a concern because not only do we have historically high interest rates now, we have a housing shortage. Now, over the next couple of months, you're going to start seeing these adjustments where if it was today and I was buying a house and it was a 6% interest rate, depending on my credit and depending on how much debt I had, that interest rate could be more like 7.5%. Or you could be paying thousands more in closing costs. So that is really top of mind right now as far as we're concerned as an industry, that we have to do something. And it all goes together, right? If you have a housing shortage, you have historically high interest rates now, and now they're going to be even higher because of your overall profile. So that's something that I think we all need to continue to look closely at. You don't see it yet, but if you were to price the same loan today as you would in the next 60 to 90 days, there's going to be a significant difference. I agreed with everything that everyone has said about wealth building. There was an article recently that many young homeowners are not buying houses now. They're moving back with their parents. My wife wouldn't have a problem with that. And quite frankly, neither would I. But it's very interesting because when you look at it, you know, folks like me are part of the problem. You know, I have 3 boys, 1 in college. My wife and I have been in our house for 20 years. We built up a tremendous amount of equity. If we tried to buy the same house today, we wouldn't be able to. You know, we have almost paid off our mortgage, so I'm not selling my property. And I have a lot of friends who are in the same demographic that have the same thing, have the same issue. So it's like the perfect storm between a housing shortage, interest rates, these LLPAs, and a lot of things that we're starting to see that's going to continue to affect the market. So I'm hopeful that at a state level, and obviously representing mortgage bankers, we talk about this all the time, that we continue to look at legislation to help these home buyers, help with mortgage financing, and continue to build the wealth that we need in order to sustain our economy and our future. I thank you for your time today.
That was great. We've got a few minutes. The first thing I want to do is thank each presenter and for being here at this hour of the morning. I appreciate y'all making the time and the effort to educate us. So who's first on the list? Chastain, number 28. Here we go.
Okay, thank you,
for
Mr.
being
Chairman.
patient.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today, this morning. A little bit rainy out there, so I know the trip in was a little rougher. But could I ask Mr. Wally a question? You talked about the in-house, the core arm product, which struck a bell with me. But could you share a couple of things with that? Is that program maybe a little easier to qualify? Maybe down payment? Maybe I know it's a 5-year, 7-year fixed rate, and that amortization can be 20 years or 30 years.
Yes, sir.
And also one other question with that. The average time that folks actually live in a home in Georgia before selling it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a 5-1 arm, so it is a 5-year fixed rate, and you can amortize the loan out up to 30 years. Okay. And the closing costs are a little bit cheaper than a traditional mortgage, and the qualifications are not quite as stringent. I believe our minimum FICO score on that product is around 680, I believe. And as far as money down, I believe we do 15% down on the arm. So, and average time people live in their home, these ladies might could answer that better. I believe it's somewhere 2 to 4 years, from what I've been told.
See, my mom went to 5 years.
Okay, 5 years. So it's not as long as people think. So yeah, great question.
One follow-up, Mr. Chairman. So that would be, in my way of thinking, you know, if folks, a lot of people think that you buy a house and you stay in it for 20, 25, 30 years, but really the average time for a life change or whatever might happen for someone to sell their house is actually 5 or 6 years. So this product would be, in my mind, a pretty good product if you're looking for something like that.
No, I agree. Yeah. And really where we see people go to this product more is like I said earlier, when they don't have a solid job for 2 years, if they've started a new job or if they're self-employed, things of that nature. I had one client who was a commercial airline pilot, and he left that job to go be a pilot in California to fight forest fires, and that's seasonal work, and the money was better. It's more dangerous work, but the money was better, and he couldn't qualify for a home on the traditional market, so this product worked for him.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Who's next? Kindred. Okay, number 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an LLPA question. Is this Mr. Bussey? What is the justification for raising the LLPA for a good credit buyer, and is that even legal under Fannie Freddie?
The justification, in my opinion, is nothing. The agencies are strictly looking at risk. Now, I can understand for an individual who has had an issue with credit that wants to purchase a property. I'm still researching, as many of my colleagues are, to understand why someone who has an excellent credit profile, has maintained their debt, should be in any way, shape, or form penalized. That is the main topic that the MBA is looking at. We have not come up with an answer yet, but it doesn't make sense, to be quite honest with you. You know, the agencies, Fannie and Freddie, say that they're trying to minimize risk with these loans. I can't understand why. If you have a track record of good credit, mortgage payments, other things, I don't understand, to be perfectly frank with you.
Would you let us know as soon as you find out?
I absolutely will.
Thank you.
Super. Who's next? Schofield. Number 17, Representative Schofield.
Good morning, Mr. Bussey. Come on back.
I should have just stayed there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Kim Fulton County. And thank you all for all of these amazing presentations. Mr. Bussey,
Yes, ma'am.
you're speaking and you're talking my language. That is some of the things that we've been dealing with when we talk about credit desert. So I'd like to talk offline as to the disparities and the intentionality behind this whole issue. My question was, what's the bill number that you said that they're working on? Is there a bill number generated?
I don't know,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I can find that out for you. I was told to be general today, so I don't have that exact information, but I could definitely look that
And
up. And
my last
do.
question is this new adjustment predicated on zip code?
No, not at all. It is national. It's based upon your credit profile and your debt. And one thing that really confuses me is, like I mentioned in my presentation, I understood the need for an adjustment for someone who has not demonstrated the ability to pay their bills. That's understandable. The adjustment now that they're looking at for the amount of debt that you have is something that's quite confusing to me because, obviously if you have a certain amount of debt and you're able to manage it and you have a good credit score, there isn't a reason why you should have an adjustment. But now they're saying instead of you having a 35% debt to ratio, if your debt ratio is say 45 or 48 or 50, that there could be an additional 0.75% on that mortgage that you will have to pay. So you can either pay it out of your pocket or you can increase your rate. And if you increase your rate, that's what makes that particular home more affordable. Or if you have marginal cash to put down, or for closing costs, and as we mentioned, there are a lot of sellers because of the market right now that are not paying closing costs, then that puts folks in a very difficult bind. So you have someone that comes to us or any other mortgage company, they're excited, all of a sudden, well, your interest rate is going to be this because of your credit profile and the amount of debt that you have. That takes that particular buyer out of the market, unfortunately. We go back to the same problem that we had before.
Cool. All right, Chairman Washburn, number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bussey, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being with us today and
Yes.
for your presentation. And I would like to follow up with my colleagues, a little more commentary about this whole, what is it again?
LLPAs.
LLPA.
Loan level pricing adjustments.
Loan level pricing adjustment. A bureaucratic term if I've ever heard one.
Clearly.
Where is this? Is it in the House or in the Senate? This is obviously a federal issue that they're...
It's in the House right now. There has Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac announced this legislation fourth quarter of last year. Once the National MBA got a hold of it, they said, well, hold on a second. The timing of this couldn't be any worse.
It could not be any worse. I'm just astounded
Yeah,
at this time that
yeah.
we would see something like
Yeah.
this.
Now, like I mentioned, LLPAs it's not new. They've been around for a while. They have factored into mortgages for a long period of time. It's just now that they have introduced this new level of adjustments, not just for higher FICO score customers, but also for the amount of debt that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't keep going with this, but I think this hints at other issues as well, where we have in other areas of business, we have these artificial scoring tables that are set that are just a way to raise prices on Georgians and on all Americans.
Yes.
And I think this is probably something that needs to be investigated a little bit anyway,
It
because it's
does.
artificial. And when you start taking somebody with an above 800 credit score and tell them they got to pay a higher rate for any reason,
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that reason might be. So thank you.
And it used to be just the opposite too, that if you had a higher credit score, you would actually receive better pricing. Now that's unfortunate, but the agency is not going to be the case.
Thank
All right.
Good. Okay. Number 19, Number 19. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. My name is Tish Nagisi, House District 68, and this question is for the gentleman regarding loan in-house. Is that a program that has several different options from different realtors or mortgage people, or is this a specific program that someone can get involved in?
This is an in-house product we offer at our bank.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Well, great. Right on time. We're good. Well, I want to thank all the presenters for being here. It's been enlightening, very enlightening. And I encourage our members to stick around and talk with the presenters. If you don't have another committee meeting, maybe share business cards so we can further the discussion. I appreciate the banking industry being represented here very well, talking about the products that help build wealth in the United States. And I appreciate the realtors coming in and talking about this very important market and one of the strengths that I think the American dream of owning their own home, I think that has been one of our founding strengths since we were first here. So with that being said, thank you all very, very much. I appreciate y'all being here. Meeting adjourned. Cool.